Welcome to the AI Analysis Podcast. Today we're talking about a classic.
We really are.
Usually when you look into a mirror, you have this basic expectation of a clear, accurate reflection.
Right. It's a one-to-one representation of reality. You raise your right hand, the reflection raises its left hand.
Exactly. Your eyes give you data, and you just inherently trust that data. It's simple, it's verifiable, and above all, it's real.
But that completely changes when the environment changes.
Yeah, exactly. Like you step into a carnival funhouse, and suddenly that mirror is warped, the reflection is distorted.
It shifts when you move. It elongates your arms or shrinks your torso.
Right. It becomes completely unreliable. You can't even trust the visual information right in front of your own face. And today we are stepping into what is basically the ultimate literary funhouse.
Oh, that is a perfect way to describe it.
We are exploring William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Now, if you are listening to this, you likely already know the basic cultural shorthand, right?
A guy in black tights holding a skull.
Yeah, agonizing over to be or not to be. But we are actually putting the skull and the tights aside today.
Because the mission for us today is to uncover the shockingly unstable foundation of this story. We want to understand not just what happens, but why this specific story of a prince losing his grip on reality has survived centuries of interpretation.
We're looking into the really messy origins, the terrifying psychological ambiguity of the language itself, and a bizarrely hilarious modern movie sequel, too.
Which is such a fun palate cleanser at the end. But to understand that survival, we have to look at the mechanics of the play itself first.
Right, specifically how it weaponizes that terrifying friction between appearance and reality.
Yeah, because the plot we think we know is actually just a framework for that friction. So just to orient everyone, we have Prince Hamlet.
And he's deeply mourning his father, the king, who died a mere 2 months prior.
Right, and his mother, Gertrude, has hastily married Claudius.
Who just happens to be the late king's brother, which is already super messy.
It is. But if that isn't unsettling enough, the ghost of Hamlet's father appears with this massive revelation.
The ghost? Yeah, he claims he was straight up murdered, that Claudius poured poison into his ear while he slept.
And of course, the ghost demands revenge.
So here is where the traditional reading usually says Hamlet decides to pretend to be crazy to investigate. He adopts what he calls an antic disposition.
Yes, his famous feigned madness.
Which people often call playing 4D chess, like he's this calculating mastermind. But looking at the sources, I really don't buy that metaphor.
No, why not?
Well, chess implies a pristine, controlled strategy. It implies you're moving pieces with total foresight.
Ah, I see what you mean. It implies Hamlet is entirely in control of the board, which he clearly isn't.
Right. I see it more like Hamlet is launching a psychological DDoS attack.
A DDoS attack. I love that.
Yeah. He doesn't have a clean strategy. Instead, he just floods Claudius's system with so much erratic noise, so many conflicting data packets of madness and bizarre behavior that the king's threat detection system completely crashes.
He weaponizes unpredictability just to overwhelm his enemy. That is a much more accurate framework.
Right. It's just chaos to buy time.
But the tragic flaw in a DDoS stack is that it's really messy. And it frequently takes down surrounding servers you never intended to hit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the collateral damage.
Exactly. When Hamlet projects this false, chaotic reality to confuse Claudius, the people around him react to that false reality in very real, very dangerous ways.
Like Polonius.
Right. He accidentally stabs the king's advisor, Polonius, right through a curtain.
Just totally senseless. And that trauma, combined with Hamlet's vicious psychological abuse throughout the play, drives Polonius's daughter Ophelia into actual terminal madness.
She drowns in her grief.
Yeah.
And then his friends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern get executed.
And the whole thing just culminates in this massive poisoned fencing match with Laertes, ending in a complete bloodbath where basically everyone dies. The erratic noise he pumps into the system destroys everyone.
It really does.
But the realization that completely shifted my perspective on this entire story, this massive convoluted plot of revenge and feigned madness, it wasn't even Shakespeare's original idea.
Not even close. If you trace the narrative lineage, the whole hero is fool mechanism.
Like pretending to be an imbecile to survive a powerful enemy.
Exactly. That trope is ancient. The most direct ancestor to our prince is actually located in a 13th century Scandinavian tale.
13th century, so way before Shakespeare.
Way before. It was recorded by the historian Saxo Grammaticus. And the hero in that specific legend is named Amleth.
Hamlet. I mean, you literally just take the H from the end and stick it at the front.
Pretty much, yeah. And then François de Belforest did a French translation in 1570, which is where the hero's melancholy was really introduced.
But I have to stop you there because this fundamentally challenges how we are taught to view Shakespeare, right? If he is lifting Scandinavian characters, pulling the hero's personality from a French translation, and swiping the revenge ghost concept from earlier writers...
You're wondering if he's just plagiarizing.
Yeah. Isn't he essentially just stealing? Was Shakespeare essentially a 16th century Hollywood studio just churning out a gritty reboot of an existing IP?
It's a fair question, but I wouldn't use the word stealing. That applies a very modern 21st century concept of intellectual property to a 16th century oral and theatrical tradition.
Okay, so how did they view it back then?
Well, in Elizabethan theater, originality of plot was actually considered a weakness.
Wait, really? A weakness?
Yeah. Audiences wanted the hits. They wanted stories they already knew. The brilliance was never in inventing a narrative from scratch. The brilliance was entirely in the execution.
Oh, I see.
Shakespeare was taking these familiar beats and elevating them with unprecedented psychological depth.
So it's more like open source storytelling. You take the existing code, but you write a vastly superior operating system on top of it.
That's a great analogy. And in this case, he injected a profoundly devastating new layer of human experience into that old code.
Which brings us to the Hamlet, right?
Yes. We know that around 1589, which is a full decade before Shakespeare finalized his version, there's a lost play circulating in London that scholars call the Hamlet.
And we don't have copies of this anymore.
No, it's totally lost. But records show it already had the ghost yelling for revenge. Some scholars believe Thomas Kyd wrote it, while others argue a young Shakespeare wrote it himself and just spent 10 years refining it.
Okay, but something massive happened during those 10 years of refining.
Yes. What we know for sure is that in 1596, Shakespeare's only son died at the age of 11.
And his son's name was Hamnet, with an N.
Right. Which, in the fluid spelling of the era, was virtually interchangeable with Hamlet.
Wow.
So while he is assembling these ancient plot mechanics about a Danish prince, he is simultaneously pouring a very raw, very real exploration of grief, mortality, and the loss of a namesake right into the text.
He takes a basic revenge thriller and transforms it into an existential crisis.
Exactly.
That emotional reality completely changes the texture of the play for me. It makes it deeply personal. But speaking of fluid spelling, that brings up something that completely broke my brain when I was going through the source material.
The textual issues.
Yes. The version of Hamlet I dragged around in my backpack for an entire semester in high school, it turns out Shakespeare never actually wrote that specific book.
He never wrote the singular book you read? No. What you read was a scholarly Frankenstein's monster.
That is wild to me.
There is actually no single definitive author-approved manuscript of Hamlet in existence. What we actually have are 3 conflicting early printed texts, and they differ wildly from one another.
Let's look at the mechanics of how this happened, because it really shatters that whole illusion of the solitary genius handing down a perfect manuscript.
It really does. So first we have the second quarto, or Q2, printed in 1604, which is the longest version.
Okay.
Then we have the first folio, or F1, printed in 1623, which was after Shakespeare died.
Right, and the folio cuts a bunch of lines from Q2. I read that some sources suggest it was to avoid offending King James's wife, Anne of Denmark.
That's the running theory, yeah. But F1 also adds new lines that Q2 completely lacks.
So editors just sort of smash them together.
Exactly. For centuries, editors have been taking Q2 and F1, combining them, smoothing over the contradictions, and presenting that compiled version to students as the text.
But the most fascinating piece of this whole puzzle has to be the first quarto, Q1.
Oh, famously known as the bad quarto.
Which was completely lost to history until somebody literally found a copy sitting in a closet in 1823.
Literal closet, yes.
And it is incredibly short. It reads completely differently than the others.
The current prevailing theory explains exactly why it reads so differently. You see, in the Elizabethan era, there were no copyright laws to protect a hit play, so rival theater companies would constantly try to steal them.
Right, they want to perform the blockbusters.
Exactly. So scholars believe Q1 is what's called a memorial reconstruction.
Meaning someone wrote it from memory?
Yes. An actor who played a minor role in Shakespeare's company, likely the actor who played the guard Marcellus, because his specific lines are recorded with remarkable accuracy.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. He tried to write out the entire play purely from memory to sell to a publisher.
Which means we are essentially reading a guy trying to remember the greatest piece of literature in the English language off the top of his head.
Basically, yeah.
It's the 16th century equivalent of watching a shaky, camcorded bootleg of a movie where the audio just drops out every 5 minutes.
That is a perfect analogy. And the drop in poetic quality is staggering.
Do we have an example?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
If you look at the Q2 or folio versions, you get the sweeping philosophical poetry everyone knows. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
We all know that one.
Yeah.
And then you look at the bootleg version. The guy writing from memory in Q1 gives us this clunky, rushing approximation. It literally reads, to be or not to be, I. There's the point. To die, to sleep, is that all? I all.
There's the point. It completely flattens the existential dread into a passing observation.
It sounds like a pirate trying to summarize a philosophy lecture.
It really does.
But I am actually going to defend the bad quarto for a moment here.
Oh, really? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it lacks the poetic genius, clearly. But when you look at the structure, the bootleg version is actually a significantly better experience for a modern audience with a short attention span.
In what way?
It moves fast, it cuts out all the rambling.
That's true. Replaces philosophical paralysis with narrative momentum. In the standard, longer compiled texts, Hamlet is constantly shifting moods, bouncing between fiery resolve and agonizing indecision from scene to scene.
Right, and it takes over 3 hours to perform.
Easily. But in Q1, the character arc is direct. He discovers the murder, he makes a plan, and he executes it.
And that matters for you as a listener. Because if you've ever found Shakespeare tedious or overly long, you aren't alone. Modern directors agree with you.
Oh, absolutely.
There have been dozens of contemporary theatrical productions that specifically choose to stage the Q1 version, because sometimes you just want the action movie pacing without the 3 hours of agonizing over the nature of the universe.
Sometimes you just want the hits.
Exactly. Now, we are going to explore how that agonizing completely breaks down the English language right after a brief word from our sponsors.
Stop wasting your time on manually editing your videos. The secret AI tool will do the work for you. One of the best things about it is that it gives your video the potential to go viral. Visit this page, sign in, create a project by clicking on this button. Choose a video that you want to use. Click on the AI clip button. Wait for the magic. It is scanning through the video and looking for the parts that has the potential to go viral. Instead of editing the video by yourself, it does the work for you. It even generates headline and captions which fit your video. Another surprise is that they generate video description or social post for you to use. Once done, click Export to Post.
And we are back. Before the break, we were looking at how unstable the physical text of the play actually is. How memory and compilation created all these conflicting versions of reality.
Which is fascinating when you think about the themes of the story.
Yes. What strikes me is how that physical instability perfectly mirrors the instability of Hamlet's own mind.
The medium literally becomes the message. The entire driving engine of the narrative is appearance versus reality, and the terrifying realization that you simply cannot trust what you see.
Because no one in Elsinore is exactly who they appear to be.
Right. And because of that paranoia, language itself stops being a tool for communication and becomes a tool for concealment.
And the ultimate example of this breakdown is the prayer scene.
Oh, such a crucial scene.
Claudius is kneeling, seemingly deep in prayer, and Hamlet sneaks up behind him with a drawn sword. This is the moment, right? The ghost demanded revenge. The target is totally exposed.
But Hamlet stops.
He stops. He looks at the appearance of the situation and thinks, wait, if I kill him while he's praying, his soul goes straight to heaven. My father was murdered in his sleep without a chance to repent, so he is stuck in purgatory. Sending my uncle to heaven isn't revenge.
So he just walks away.
He walks away.
And the devastating reality of that moment is revealed the second Hamlet leaves the room. Claudius speaks loud and admits he cannot actually repent.
He says something like, my words fly up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He says, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below, words without thoughts never to heaven go. His prayer was completely hollow.
Wow.
If Hamlet had simply ignored his own overthinking and struck, the tragedy would have ended right there.
But he couldn't, because Elsinore is fundamentally a surveillance state. Nobody trusts anybody.
Everyone is spying on everyone.
Polonius sends a spy to check on his own son in Paris. Claudius and Polonius hide behind a tapestry to spy on Hamlet and Ophelia.
Claudius recruits Hamlet's childhood friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to act as double agents.
Literally every single room in this castle is bugged.
And Hamlet is acutely aware of this surveillance, which is why he has to engage in his own form of counter-espionage.
Because he can't just trust the ghost, right?
Exactly. Remember the theological context of the era. A ghost could be a spirit in purgatory, or it could be a Protestant demon sent specifically to tempt him into committing murder and damning his own soul.
So he needs empirical proof.
He needs to know for sure.
Which leads to the famous Mousetrap play. He hires these traveling actors to perform a play that exactly mimics his father's murder, and he makes Claudius watch it.
It's brilliant, really.
It's essentially a psychological wiretap. Hamlet isn't looking for physical evidence. He is hunting for a micro-expression.
Yes. He is watching Claudius's face in the dark, waiting for that involuntary flinch of guilt when the actor pours poison in the ear.
He's using art to force the reality out from under the appearance.
And as that paranoia reaches its boiling point, the dialogue itself becomes a minefield of double meanings. The characters just weaponize ambiguity.
Like with Ophelia.
Take the devastating scene where Hamlet brutally breaks his ties with her. He screams at her, "Get thee to a nunnery!"
Now, on the surface, a nunnery is a convent, right? A literal sanctuary of chastity.
That's the literal meaning, yes.
Yeah, so he is telling her to lock herself away from the corruption of the world, away from men like him so she doesn't breed more sinners. It's cruel, but it's protective in a weird way.
But underneath that surface is a horrific secondary meaning. Because in Elizabethan street slang, nunnery was a widely understood term for a brothel.
A brothel. So in a single breath, using a single word, he is simultaneously elevating her to a figure of pure virtue and degrading her as a prostitute.
It creates a complete collapse of linguistic certainty. Ophelia cannot possibly know which reality he intends, which is precisely what shatters her mind.
Every line in the play begins doing double or triple duty, buckling under the weight of this psychological burden.
And when a piece of art carries that much heavy psychological burden for hundreds of years, it inevitably invites rebellion.
Oh, for sure.
When something is held up as the most revered, untouchable text in the English language, it naturally becomes the perfect target for complete, unhinged parody.
The weight of the original almost demands a release valve, which brings us to the 2008 comedy film Hamlet 2.
We absolutely have to talk about Hamlet 2.
It's so good. This movie stars Steve Coogan as a character named Dana. Dana is a profoundly unsuccessful, wildly enthusiastic high school drama teacher in Tucson, Arizona.
And he finds out his drama program is being shut down due to budget cuts.
Right. And Dana decides the only logical way to save his program is to write and direct an original, unauthorized sequel to Shakespeare's masterpiece.
A masterpiece famously known for ending with every major character dead on the floor.
Right. The mechanics of how he pulls this off are incredible. I mean, how do you make a sequel when the stage is covered in corpses?
Well, Dana's solution is simple. He writes a play where the characters simply use a time machine.
A time machine.
They go back in time to fix all their daddy issues and avoid getting murdered.
And the absurdity escalates rapidly from there. To ensure a crowd, Dana includes highly controversial elements. Most notably, the introduction of Jesus Christ as a main character.
Jesus joins the time-traveling crew to sort out his own complicated relationship with his father.
Which just culminates in a massive, profoundly inappropriate high school musical number called Rock Me Sexy Jesus.
It is pure chaos. The parents in the movie are horrified. There are protests outside the school. The ACLU gets involved.
Dana's own lead actor leaks the script to the principal to try and stop the production. But in the end, the sheer earnest lunacy of the play actually wins over the angry audience.
It's a great underdog story.
But what I love about connecting this ridiculous comedy back to our main discussion is the massive irony at the center of it.
You're looking at the contrast in the protagonists, right?
Yes. Shakespeare's Hamlet is world famous as the ultimate victim of paralyzing indecision. He overthinks every single action, every prayer, every word, until his inaction destroys his entire family.
Exactly.
But Coogan's character, Dana, he is objectively an idiot, but he makes the most decisive, aggressively bizarre theatrical choices possible.
He puts a time machine and Jesus into Hamlet.
And he sticks to that choice with zero hesitation, and it actually saves the day. He is the perfect comedic inverse of the tragic hero.
It acts as a mirror to our own experience with the play. Hamlet forces us to look at our own anxieties, our own fears of making the wrong choice, our own dread of the unknown.
And that is incredibly taxing to sit through.
So when a character like Dana comes along and just blasts through all of that paralyzing anxiety with a time machine and a ridiculous musical number, it provides a necessary, profound catharsis for the audience.
It completely shatters the funhouse mirror and lets us breathe again.
It really does.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with the ancient Scandinavian legend of Hamlet. We dug into the open source nature of Elizabethan storytelling and the tragedy of Shakespeare's own son.
We looked at how memory created a clunky action movie bootleg of the text.
We explored the terrifying surveillance state of Elsinore and finally found catharsis in a time-traveling high school musical.
It's a vast landscape of interpretation. But as we close, I want to leave you with one final, deeply ironic thought regarding the actual plot of the original play.
Okay, lay it on us.
We spent hours watching Hamlet agonize over morality, the nature of action, the theology of revenge. We watched the entire royal court plot against each other, wiretap each other, and ultimately poison and stab each other to death.
Yep, a total bloodbath.
And who ends up taking the throne of Denmark at the very end of the bloodbath?
Well, it isn't anyone we've been emotionally invested in for the past 3 hours.
Not at all. It is Fortinbras, the Prince of Norway.
Oh, right.
Fortinbras is a character who is mentioned almost entirely on the periphery of the story. While Hamlet is paralyzed by philosophy, Fortinbras is just off fighting battles, taking action, not overthinking a single thing.
He's actually doing things.
And at the end of the play, Fortinbras literally just walks through the open doors of Elsinore, finds everyone dead on the floor, and basically says, I guess I'm in charge now.
He just walks in and takes the crown.
It presents a fascinating perspective for you to ponder. Perhaps the ultimate dark joke of Shakespeare's great tragedy of overthinking is that sometimes history doesn't belong to the smartest person in the room.
Wow.
It doesn't belong to the most moral or the most philosophical. Sometimes history simply belongs to the person who just happens to show up at the right time.
That is incredible. While everyone else is trapped, agonizing over the warped reflections of the funhouse mirror, Fortinbras just walks right past the glass and takes the keys to the car.